Hi everyone. In today's session, we are going to discuss some key, things in the critical reasoning. So here in your critical reasoning, you have different, areas which are going to be tested. Conclusions. Which of the conclusions can be drawn from the given passage, like that, and which of the following options will strengthen the argument of the author, and which of the following can be implicit assumption. So like that, you will be having different kind of testing areas: conclusions, inferences, assumptions, arguments. Like that, you have various kind of areas which are going to be tested. So here in today's session, in our foundation builder sheet 1, we are going to discuss on few segments like arguments, assumptions and conclusions. On these three segments we are going to work, and as it is a foundation builder sheet, I have given statements followed by arguments and options. Okay, by your examination you will be getting a passage kind of thing, and based on passages we have to face the questions. Here I have given a single statement or two statements kind of thing, as it is the first sheet. Okay, so like see the first statement here, first question statement: India received $87 billion in remittances in 2021, which helped in increasing our foreign reserves. Should India focus on sending more Indians abroad? Argument 1: yes, it is increasing our foreign reserves. Second one: no, there are healthy and safety risks. Indians are exploited abroad. So out of these two arguments, which argument is strong? So I will go for both are weak, neither one nor two is strong, because here see the argument 1 says it is increasing our foreign reserves. There are healthy and safety risks. Indians are exploited abroad. So whenever you are giving an argument, and to say the argument is strong, it should be logically true. You must give proper evidences to say whether your argument is strong. If your argument is strong. So here I don't go with 1 and I don't go with 2 to be strong. Both are weak arguments. So if you see the second case, there are very rare cases of exploitation of Indians abroad. So here 1 is weak, 2 is also weak. Both are weak. And see second one here. Second question. Should India invest in renewable energy to be self-sufficient for energy demand? Argument 1. Yes, it is necessary for a big country like India to be self-sufficient in energy requirements. Investing in renewable energy is a good option. So here this particular argument is a strong argument because it is logically true and as well as it is having the evidence. So here 1 is strong. What about 2? Yes, renewable energy is the future. We can't dependent on fossil fuels which cause high carbon emissions. Sooner or later we have to shift on renewable energy sources. So here both 1 and 2 are strong. Both 1 and 2 arguments are strong. Now go to third question. Should people follow hobbies as their career option? Yes. When we are passionate about something, we are more likely to be motivated and engaged in our work, which is logically true, which can lead to greater success and enjoyment. So here the first one is a strong argument because it is having a conclusion with supporting elements and those supporting elements are logically syncing with the what statement. So you can issue. That's the reason you can say 1 is strong. What about 2? No. Career in hobbies won't make people financially stable. Hobbies don't have the potential to generate sufficient income to support a person financially. It is not a strong argument. It is not a strong argument because it is not supported by proper evidences. So I can say only 1 is strong. Only 1 is strong. What about the 4th one? Should audiobooks completely replace the textbooks in school curriculum? In school curriculum. First argument, no. Textbooks contain information that is organized and presented in a way that is easy for students to understand and access. A combination of textbooks and audiobooks to provide students with a well-rounded learning experience. First one is strong. What about second one? No. Textbooks can also be useful for students who prefer to learn by reading or who may have difficulty retaining information when it is presented orally. It should be based on the needs and preferences of the individual student and the specific subject matter. So both 1 and 2 are strong arguments here. So option 5. Next, question number 6. As now COVID cases are going down and people are vaccinated, should we stop using face masks in public places? Argument 1. Argument 1. No. While the number of cases may be going down in some areas, the virus is still present and spreading in many places. Wearing a face mask can help protect us and others from getting infected with the virus. It is a strong argument. And what about second? No. It is not yet known how much protection the vaccines provide against the transmission of the virus. Wearing a face mask can help to protect both individual wearing it and those around them. So second one is also strong. Both 1 and 2 are strong. So fifth one, both 1 and 2 are strong. Now sixth one. Is it advisable for Indians to prioritize exploring their own country before traveling to other countries? So argument 1, no. There are many benefits. To traveling internationally, such as the opportunity to experience different cultures, cuisines, and landscapes, and to make new friends and connections. So it is first argument is strong. Is it advisable for Indians to prioritize exploring their own country before traveling to other countries? No. No, and the reason behind it is this one, which is logically true also. So first one is strong. What about second? Yes, it is rewarding and enriching personal experience to explore India. So which is a weak argument? Which is a weak argument because it is not carrying any evidences. So second one is weak. So I can say only one. Only one is strong. What about seventh question? Is it advisable to legalize the illicit drugs in order to combat drug trafficking and organized crime? Yes, it will help to reduce drug-related crime and violence, as drug cartels and other criminal organizations would no longer have profitable market for illegal drugs, which is a strong argument. Which is a strong argument. What about the second one? No, they are harmful to the body. Health risks are associated with drug use. With drug use, make it unwise to legalize drugs. Legalize drugs. So here, which one? I will go with both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2 to be strong. Both 1 and 2 are strong. Seventh one. Next, one person says yes, the other person says no. Both can be strong. Okay, they should have their valid reasons. Should schools require students to wear uniforms? Yes, it helps to create sense of community and unity among students, as well as promote a sense of discipline and order in the school environment. Yes, it is a strong argument. Yes, uniforms make it easier for students to focus on their studies. Uniforms may make it easier for students to focus on their studies, as they do not have to worry about what to wear each day. It is not logical. I will go with only one. Only one. Ninth one. In making decisions about important questions, it is desirable to be able to distinguish between strong arguments and weak arguments insofar as they relate to the question. Strong arguments are those which are both important and directly related to the question. Weak arguments are those which are of minor importance and also may not be directly related to the question or may be related to the trivial aspect of the question. Now a statement is given, my son really doesn't want to wear boy clothes. He prefers to wear girl clothes. The fashion world has divided children into pink and blue. Which of the following, if true, would weaken the argument? Which of the following, if true, would weaken the argument? So which is in against of this statement? There is growing demand for different clothing for babies and toddlers too. People are differentiated on the idea that you have very masculine and very feminine things. There is a whole community out there of parents and kids who are struggling with pink and blue. The preference for neutral clothing is unsteered irrespective of gender, age and category. So here I will go with option 4. Option 4. So here if you see, the author argues that the fashion industry has divided children into two groups. One that likes to wear blue clothes and the other one that likes to wear pink clothes. Here option D weakens this argument. What is option D? The preference for neutral clothing is unsteered irrespective of gender, age and category. This option is going to weaken the argument of the author by stating that there is no such division of children based on certain color preferences. Instead, they still prefer neutral clothing. So if option D is true, it cannot be deduced that fashion world has divided into blue and pink. So I will go with option C. I will go with option D. That is fourth option. If it is true, it is not going to accept the author's argument that the fashion world has divided children into pink and blue. That's the reason I will go with option 4. I hope it is clear. It is asking for which of the following, if it is true, will weaken the author's argument. What is the author's argument here? The fashion world has divided children into pink and blue. But if fourth one is true, the preference for neutral clothing is unsteered irrespective of gender, age and category, then it goes in against with the author's argument. That's why fourth one is going to weaken. The author's argument. So option is fourth one. Next, 10th question. Statement is given: Should the Indian securities market regulator SEBI allow the European securities market regulator to inspect Indian clearing corporations under a new pact? Argument 1: No, because inspection by overseas market regulators may result in the Indian regulator seeking regulatory ground to an authority that is exercising extraterritorial jurisdiction over Indian companies, which is a strong argument. No, because this could set a precedent for other countries to follow suit and demand the right to inspect Indian companies. So both 1 and 2 are strong arguments. Strong arguments. So I will go with option 5. Next. See, 1 to 10 are based on arguments. Okay, 1 to 10 are based on arguments. And you have to once again understand how to draw arguments. When do you say an argument is a strong argument? A strong argument is such kind of an argument which has validity. Which has validity. The conclusion logically follows the statement. And it should be sounded. And it should be relevant. And it should be sufficient. And no fallacies. No fallacies. So, when do you say an argument is strong? An argument is strong when it is logically valid and true as per the premises, sounds very high, and it is relevant to the situation and the conclusion, and as well as sufficient reasons and evidences are being provided. For example, see, I am giving a simple example here. All humans need water to survive. John is a human. Therefore, John needs water to survive. Is this a strong argument or not? All humans need water to survive. John is a human. Therefore, John needs water to survive. Is this a strong argument or not? Definitely strong. Because the conclusion logically follows. If the conclusion logically follows, it is what? A strong argument. Also, it is what? It is true. And as well as relevant and sufficient reasons are given. So you can say the argument is strong. For example, I am giving an example for weak argument. What is a weak argument? A weak argument is the one that lacks one or more of the above qualities. Means, for example, if it is not logically valid, if it is not sound or not relevant, or sufficient evidences are not shown, if any of these is not included, then it is a weak argument. For example, now I am giving an example for weak argument. Many people who like ice creams are happy. Many people who like ice creams are happy. John likes ice cream. Therefore, John is happy. John is happy. This argument is weak because the conclusion does not follow logically. Many people who like ice cream are happy. Many does not mean all. John likes ice cream. It is logically not followed that whoever likes ice cream, everybody is happy. It is not logically followed. So that's the reason it's a weak argument. And also it is unsound. The premise is not necessarily true. And it is irrelevant. Liking ice cream does not necessarily relate to happiness. And also it is insufficient. There is not enough evidence to support the conclusion. So whenever an argument is strong, it has to be valid logically, and it has to be sound, it has to be relevant, and sufficient enough evidences must be put in front. So that is how we have solved first 10 questions. Now what is assumption? Now you have question number 11 onwards, the questions based on assumptions. So what is an assumption? How to draw assumption from the given statement. Assumptions are the unstated facts which lie in the statement and are the base for the statement. Okay, and the base for the statement. Assumptions are the things on which your statement is based. The base for your statement is called assumption. Okay, so here you please see, an assumption is something supposed or taken for granted you have to consider the statement and the following assumptions to decide which of the assumptions is implicit in the statement. In logical reasoning, remember, an assumption is considered to be implicit if it is explicit, if it is not explicitly stated in the argument, but is necessary for the conclusion to follow. Also, it is hidden or unstated, but can be inferred from the context or premises, and it is taken for granted or presumed to be true without being explicitly mentioned. Implicit assumptions can be background knowledge or common sense, unstated premises or supposed steps in the reasoning, unexamined beliefs or biases, unspoken values of norms. So, see, for example, I am asking my friend, go and join institution X if you want to crack CAT. So, what is the assumption in my mind whenever I am advising my friend? Assumption 1, institution X offers good coaching for CAT. Assumption 2, institution X does not offer good coaching for CAT. So, out of these two, which is implicit? I am asking my friend to join Institute X for CAT coaching based on the assumption that institution X offers good coaching. So, the base for my statement to be delivered is the assumption. That is what you have to do here. So, please see here the question number 11. Question number 11. Here we have a statement. We have a statement here. Although adults know that young children are inclined to ask a lot of questions, we tend to believe that they are too immature and unsophisticated to reflect seriously on complex topics. We assume that they don't really understand the philosophical dimensions of the larger questions they pose. Assumptions 1. Children are dependent on adults, which means that they are in subordinate position with their ideas and perspectives given little weight. So, second one, being a child should not mean being treated as mediocre think. For children, philosophy is a profoundly imaginative and playful endeavor. So here I will go with option 1. 1 is implicit. 1 is implicit because see, although what is given here, the passage states how adults tend to see children and their thoughts as immature and not serious. The passage states how adults tend to see children as immature and not serious. So here that particular thing is based on an assumption which is given in the first option. If you see, children are dependent on adults, which means that they are in subordinate positions with their ideas and perspectives given little weight. So one can be assumed that as children are heavily dependent on adults in many aspects, their thoughts and viewpoints are often not taken seriously, and viewpoints are not taken seriously by the adults surrounding them. The statement is given based on the assumption mentioned in first option. So this is the base for this statement. So you can say this is a implicit assumption. I think you have understood. So the passage states how adults tend to see children as immature and not serious. This is based on an assumption that children are heavily dependent on adults in many aspects and their thoughts are viewpoints are often not taken seriously by adults. So here this is the base, this is the what statement. Based on this, this statement is said. So you can say the base is the assumption. The base is not assumption. So one is the assumption. I hope you are following. It is very important to understand these concepts because certainly you will have questions based on these things. Now, 12th question. Even after giving discounts, the problem for e-commerce exponential growth is increased. Exposure to returns fraud, that is wardrobing. Consumers are committing online shoplifting by purposely returning the non-defective item having used it at no cost. Honest customers buying something they thought was new would be outraged to realize another customer had already owned the item. Now, this is the statement. Now, out of the given options, which is implicit? Parties, family photos, outfit of the day, social media posts, interviews and special occasion events are everyday occasions, driving, wardrobing, returns fraud. So, first one implicit? I don't think. First one is not implicit. One cannot be assumed implicitly as being the reason for the people committing returns fraud from the online stores. Social or peer pressure of being fashionable, trendy and not wanting to repeat clothes when one steps out of the house may prompt one to do so. That's the reason I cannot say one is a implicit assumption for this. For the statement to be delivered, I cannot assume this as a base. One cannot be the base. Now, second one, most people can afford the apparels and other items sold online and hence indulge in wardrobing. Two also cannot be assumed as the passage states that e-commerce gives discounts to its customers, which will make them affordable for most people. So answer is neither one nor two. Neither one nor two is implicit. Now question number 13. In the question C, BG state was recently announced as one of two forensic anthropology subcontractors with RTI International on the management of the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. Their head, M. Ross, has been a long-time leader in the field of forensic anthropology, working extensively with law enforcement and on international efforts to identify victims of war crimes and political killings. So, which of the following is an assumption for the statement to be delivered? See here, BG state is the first forensic lab to work with the National Missing and Unidentified Person System. Second one, prior to the two forensic anthropology subcontractors, most victims of war crimes and political killings would not be identified. This is the first instance of involving a private forensic lab to help the government in crime cases. I think I will go for none of 1, 2, 3 is implicit. Because here see the passage states about the pact between the RTI International and the forensic lab. That is BG state and the professional works of its leader. From the passage, it cannot be assumed this is the first pact between a lab and the RTI International, or if previous cases have remained unsolved, so none of 1 to 3 can be assumed. So I will go with option E. That is fifth option. Fifth option is correct. Whenever you are saying it is the assumption for the statement, it should be logically connected. But here, I don't think any logic in the previous question. Next, question number 14. Our natural inclination towards sleeping at certain times of the night or day is called our chronotype. And it's more than a simple preference. According to sleep scientists, chronotypes are at least partly genetic, so changing yours is going to be an uphill battle. Assumptions. Our behavior patterns and instincts design the chronotypes that affect our sleep cycles. So one is implicit. I will go with one is an implicit assumption. According to the passage, chronotypes are the timings of our sleep. According to the passage, chronotypes are the timings of our sleep. It also states that chronotypes are partly genetic and changing is a difficult task. Changing is a difficult task. So it is possible to change our sleep cycles by correcting our behaviors and tendency. So statement 1 is implicit. Our behavior patterns and instincts design the chronotypes that affect our sleep cycles. So 1 is implicit. Second one, the study of sleep scientists was partly based on genetics that influences our sleep timings. The passage does not mention the study of scientists. So 2 cannot be implicit. Only 1. Only 1. Question number 15. Countries like Britain are anxious over China's control over supply chains and are looking to expand their supply chains towards the Indo-Pacific. In this slide, global firms are adopting a strategy in which they avoid investing only China and diversify their business to alternative markets. This will present India with a rare opportunity to become globally integrated. Now, what is the base for this statement? Assumptions. India will provide preferential access to British companies to set up supply chains in the country. Second one, India is open to expanding supply chains with foreign investment. I will go with option 2 as an implicit assumption for the statement. Why 1 is not implicit? Because the statement talks about Britain being anxious due to China's control over supply chains. That's the reason 1 does not follow. 1 does not follow. What about 2? India is open to expanding supply chains with foreign investment. The statement talks about global companies looking for alternative markets such as India for investing in and diversifying supply chains in order to reduce dependence on China. It rests on the assumption that India will allow foreign investments in the expansion of supply chains. So the global firms are looking to enter into India, keeping the assumption that India will accept. So this is the assumption based on which the statement is delivered. So I will say only 2. Only 2 is implicit here. Next, question number 16. Every minute, more than 500 hours of video are uploaded to YouTube. YouTube has over 2 billion users. Almost one-third of all people on the internet. The first YouTube video was uploaded in April 2005, featuring its co-founder Javed Karim at the San Diego Zoo. YouTube is used to watch music videos, comedy shows, how-to guides, recipes, hacks, and more. So what is the base for the statement? What is the base for the statement? So if you see here, first one, YouTube is a platform where people can upload videos about variety of things. Yes, it is an assumption. The passage above tells us about the popularity of YouTube and its history as well. From the last line, YouTube is used to watch so and so. We can assume that YouTube is a platform where people can upload videos about variety of things. Hence, assumption 1 is true. And what about 2? YouTube is a subsidiary of Google. It cannot be assumed because it is irrelevant. The information provided by the passage is not sufficient enough for us to assume that YouTube is a subsidiary of Google. So assumption 2 is not implicit. Not implicit. What about assumption 3? YouTube is used by almost 1/3 of all people on the internet. 1/3 of all people. See, YouTube has over 2 billion users. Almost 1/3 of all people on the internet. So the third option is not an assumption as it is a restatement. Whatever is here is again restated. Restatement cannot be assumption because an assumption is an unstated fact which you cannot see directly. In the statement. So it is a restatement. So restatement cannot be assumption. So I will go with only 1. 2 and 3 are not implicit assumptions. Now question number 17. Global tourism is growing rapidly. The UN World Tourism Organization reports that international tourist arrivals increased by 6% in 2018 to 1.4 billion arrivals worldwide. The same report shows that much of this growth has been driven by rising demand for travel destinations in emerging markets, with India and China leading the way. According to the World Travel and Tourism Council, travel to emerging economies is expected to increase at twice the rate to travel to advanced economies from now until 2030. By then, more than 1 billion travelers will arrive in emerging economies annually. So what is the base for this statement? What is the base? What is the base on which this statement is depending? Assumptions. First one, the world's fastest growing tourism destinations are almost entirely located in emerging markets. First one is definitely implicit because assumption 1 is suitable assumption based on the information provided in the statement. It perfectly covers the central idea of the emerging markets. So I will go with 1 as a implicit assumption. What about 2? Emerging markets are also growing as a source of outbound travelers from around the world. In 2015, 49% of global tourism spending came from travelers from developing countries, up from just 25% a decade earlier. So 2 is not implicit because it is directly related as it states some figures which are not evident. These are not evident from the information provided. So which cannot be taken as granted. So 2 is not implicit because it has some figures which is not evident and which you cannot see implicitly. So it cannot be assumption. Now see third one. A variety of partnerships have been launched that are helping expand the community of hosts in a way that encourages healthier, more sustainable tourism while offering a wide range of options to travelers who want locally influenced and unique accommodations. 3 is implicit. Assumption 3 is a perfect assumption that can be assumed keeping the given statement in mind. It captures the idea of emerging markets in terms of partnerships and the effect of the partnerships resulting in expanding the number of travelers, which supports the information provided in the statement. So I will go with both 1 and 3 as implicit assumptions. So answer is option 1. Then question number 18. The Everest Base Camp trek is a very safe and doable for everyone in general. With a bit of preparation, correct gear, and adequate acclimatization, trek should pose very little risk for climbers. The trails tend to be wide and smooth, and support is more readily available due to its popularity. Choosing a trek that follows a gradual ascent profile is always suggest. So out of the given assumptions which is implicit, a trek which follows gradual ascent will never lead to the death of a climber in the EBC trek. One a valid assumption. One cannot be assumed as gradual of the EBC may lead to the death of a climber due to some other factors like natural or physical woes. So it cannot be taken as a assumption. So one is not. What about second? Is second a valid assumption? Implicit assumption? Many people have trekked from EBC, due to which undertaking the trek is pretty feasible now. Two also can't be assumed as the passage does not say anything about the trekkers ascending faster than recommended. So it is also not implicit. What about third one? Many climbers at the EBC trek feel pressured to ascend quickly and thus meet with dangerous circumstances. So 3 is also not implicit. 3 is also here not implicit. 3 cannot be assumed. Okay. So none of 1, 2, 3. None of 1, 2, 3. Next. Question number 19. Public transports are temporarily banned from work. Though use of private vehicles is increased as a result of lockdown imposed in all over the world, air pollution has noticeably decreased. Assumptions. First one, people are staying at their homes during the lockdown period. Is one a implicit assumption? Yes, one can be taken as implicit. Since the incident happened in lockdown, people are advised to stay home. We may assume this is the reason behind less air pollution. So thus one follows. What about second? The cars that are used in lockdown run on battery which produces no or less carbon. It is not implicit. Nothing about the battery run cars is mentioned in the given passage. So 2 cannot be assumed as a what? Implicit assumption. So 2 is not implicit. Only one. Only one. Now question number 20. The credibility of auroral noise reports from the 20th century was intimately tied to altitude measurements of the northern lights. It was considered that only those displays that descended low into the Earth's atmosphere would be able to transmit sound which could be heard by the human ear. The problem here was that results recorded during the second international polar year 1932-33 found aurorae most commonly took place 100 km above Earth and very rarely below 80 km. This suggests it would be impossible for what? Discernible sound from the lights to be transmitted to the Earth's surface. Now, which of the following is a implicit assumption? Even the mechanism behind the sound remains somewhat mysterious, as are the conditions that must be met for the sound to be heard. So, one is a implicit assumption because see here the passage here what it is stating, the research conducted neither confirms nor dismisses the production of any sound, discernible or not. It only emphasizes the fact that a human cannot hear any sound produced beyond the range of 80 km. since the occurrence of sound is mysterious itself, and even it does not occur above 100 kilometer, the mechanism of its occurrence also remains mysterious. So based on this assumption, the statement is depending. So the base for the statement is assumption 1. You can say 1 is a correct one. Am I correct? 1 is correct. What about second one? What about second one? Reports of the aurora making a noise, however, are rare and dismissed by scientists. So statement 2 is a part conclusion, rare, and part inference, dismissed. So it can be dismissed. So here it cannot be an implicit assumption. What about third one? Accounts from settlements across northern latitudes reported that sound sometimes accompanied the mesmerizing light displays in the skies. Third one cannot be assumed as we do not have enough information to say northern lights appear across northern latitudes and thus people from those regions reported of auroral noise. So here 3 is not a implicit assumption. So only one means option 2. So this is how you have questions in assumptions. Now see here, on the basis of information given in the statement, you have to find an option that gives the best conclusion. So if you see in our today's session, first 10 questions are based on arguments, strong and weak argument. When do you say an argument is strong? When do you say an argument is weak? After that, next 10 questions from 11 to 20 are based on assumptions. When do you say an assumption is implicit for the statement? Okay. Now, next questions are based on conclusions. So, out of the given statement or passage, what can be concluded? So, however, see here, statement. However, the air fryer's technology is nothing new. Nothing new. Essentially, it is a countertop fan oven. Despite its name, nothing actually fries it. It bakes them and does so rapidly because, like all ovens, it is a well-insulated box that heats up quickly due to its size and cooks quickly due to the presence of an incredibly strong fan that is strategically placed to distribute the heat. Which of the following can be concluded from the statement mentioned above? So out of the given, which can be taken as a conclusion? So if you see here, people have shifted significantly towards healthier food options during the past few years. So I will go with first option. As a conclusion because it demonstrates, the first option demonstrates how strongly consumers are moving towards healthier food options, which supports the claim that demand for air fryers is skyrocketing. So that's the reason we can say here one is a conclusion. One is a conclusion from the statement. So 21 option is 1. Option is 1. Now 22nd. It is also we have to derive conclusion. Before nationalism, being Persian meant being a part of generous plural identity waved through kinship, custom and language. So out of the statement, what can be derived? What is the conclusion? Persians had a very different relationship with their country, origin and sense of belonging before nationalism. The rise of nationalism caused a decline in the concept of being Persian. Presentationalist Persians may have come from variety of nations, faiths, kingdoms and geographical areas. I will go with the third one. See, Persians had, it is said before nationalism, being Persian meant being a part of generous plural identity waved through kinship, customs and language. Persians had a very different relationship with their country, origin and sense of belonging with nationalism. So it is impossible to determine with absolute confidence from the supplied passage how different things were before and after nationalism. After nationalism, so it would not be permissible to use the phrase completely different, completely different, completely different. Therefore, statement one is not a conclusion. What about second one? So according to the passage, the concept of being Persian underwent changes both before and after nationalism. However, further details are required to support the use of word. See here, the rise of nationalism caused a decline in the concept of being Persian. Being Persian. So in this, so two cannot be a result. Two cannot be a result. So see the third one. Presentationalist Persians may have come from variety of nations, faiths, kingdoms and geographical areas. It is given plural identity. Plural identity. This plural identity refers to a person's affiliation with numerous places or regions, faiths, kingdoms, etc. That's why we can say third one is a conclusion. Third one is a conclusion. Which one can be drawn from the statement? So here option 3 is a valid conclusion. Next, 23. The question below, see here, the properties of the employed material which can be insulating or metallic strongly influence the thermodynamic and dynamic behavior of the dipolar liquids. Conclusions. The employees influence the thermodynamic and dynamic characteristics of the dipolar liquids with the properties of insulating and metallic material. Is first one correct? No, it cannot be taken as a conclusion. The properties of the insulating material influence the thermodynamic and dynamic behavior of the dipolar liquids. It also can't be taken as a conclusion. The properties of the metallic material influence the thermodynamic and dynamic behavior of the dipolar liquids. So here none of 1, 2, 3 are the conclusions. The term, see, employed is a very cursory term that generalizes any material within the context. There is an allowance for the material to be of two polar opposite electromagnetic characteristics, conductor and insulator. Therefore, in the context of this sentence, the cursory terms also must mandate certain criteria for the material so that it cannot influence the thermodynamic and dynamic characteristics of the dipolar liquid. Therefore, the conclusions that can be derived are, what can be derived here? The material chosen in accordance with the criteria for the predefined principle or mechanism that independently influences the thermodynamic or dynamic characteristics of the dipolar liquid, notwithstanding its electromagnetic characteristics. And what else can be concluded or derived? The thermodynamic or dynamic characteristics of the dipolar liquid are independent of the electromagnetic characteristics of the implemented material, chosen in accordance with the criteria of for predefined principle or mechanism. But here what do we have in conclusion 1? Employees is an incorrect interpretation of the word. The employees is an incorrect interpretation. Employees influenced. It is a what? Incorrect interpretation. So it cannot be a conclusion. What about 2 and 3? Since which material influenced the thermodynamic and dynamic behavior of the dipolar liquids is not known, we cannot say that it was metallic or insulating. It was metallic or insulating. These are properties. It is capable of exhibiting. So the statements cannot be concluded. So here, which material is going to influence, we cannot assume whether it is insulating or metallic. That's the reason these 2 and 3 are also not the valid conclusions. Because while drawing conclusions, assumptions are not allowed. Assumptions are not allowed. So here both 2 and 3 cannot be the valid conclusions. Thermal means conventional energy. Dynamic means movement or flow. Thermodynamic means flow of conventional energy. Hence I will go with option E here. This is the last one. The 24th one. See here. In contrast, modern roundabouts are small, have lower speed restrictions, traffic yields rather than stops, and have fewer lanes in general. Modern roundabouts allow traffic to enter at a smaller angle than traditional traffic circles, significantly reducing the likelihood of a T-bone collision. It's often written that the intersectional 90-degree traffic lanes are far more dangerous for a malfunctioning or non-police stop compared to the absence of such traffic stops itself. It is the roundabout that eliminates this paradox. Which of the following can be concluded from the statement mentioned above? So out of these, which is a valid conclusion? Due to the reduced angles, modern roundabouts has higher traffic. It cannot be concluded. First one cannot be concluded. The information on the traffic density in roundabouts is not given. The intensity is not given. So you cannot say one is the conclusion. The likelihood of cars colliding has grown as a result of contemporary roundabouts. It is also incorrect because the cars do not travel at 90 degrees to each other. Therefore, roundabouts have decreased the chance of car intersections, right? So here 2 is actually not a conclusion. Then what about third one? Prior roundabouts had a higher likelihood of vehicles colliding. It is also incorrect because it is given that modern roundabouts doesn't classify the roundabouts as modern and standard. Modern and standard. It implies that roundabouts themselves are modern in comparison to the standard traffic stops. So that's the reason here option 3 is wrong. Yes or no? What about option 4? Option 4. If you see, modern roundabouts compensate for the lack of traffic stops with fewer lanes. It is also incorrect. The inference of the above information in the paragraph, it is the inference. The statement is incomplete as a conclusion such that it does not define the effect of pure lanes or absence of stops to the transport. So here it cannot be a conclusion. So accident risks has lowered because of the modern roundabouts. It can be concluded. So the statement, whatever the statement is given, the conclusion is fifth one. The statement concludes the paragraph with great precision as it is mentioned that traffic flows into modern roundabouts at smaller angle, drastically cutting the chances of getting T-bonded. It is often written that intersectional 90-degree traffic lanes are far more dangerous for a malfunctioning or non-policed stop compared to the absence of such traffic stop itself. Therefore, I can say option 5 is the correct answer. Option 5 is the correct answer. 25th. C. The Barca women always appear majestic no matter who they are against, and tonight against Hoffenheim in the Champions League. their third victory in the competition this year. They were just as gorgeous. Now, conclusion. First one. So, Barca's feminine team has won the 3 consecutive matches in the Champions League. Barca's feminine team has won all the matches of the Champions League this season. Barca's feminine team outclassed Hoffenheim as they outclassed all the opponents in the matches of the Champions League this season. So out of these, which can be taken as a conclusion? They were just as magnificent. What is given? They were just as magnificent as Hoffenheim. Okay. This suggests that it is definite that Barca feminine team has outclassed or outplayed or outperformed Hoffenheim. Clarification is needed on the result of the match. It is possible for Hoffenheim to scrape a goal and win the match even when Barca feminine team has outperformed them. In the Champions League, their third win in the competition this season. In the Champions League, their third victory in the competition this year. This clears that the performance of the Barca feminine team is not void of the result in their favor. Therefore, the context can be extended that it doesn't matter who is against. The Barca women always look majestic, and today they were just as magnificent. This suggests that Barca feminine team has outperformed and won all the matches as of now in the Champions League this season. Since the first one and third one are same, both are correct. Either of them can be chosen. So I will go with 1 and 3. 1 and 3. Do we have 1 and 3? Do we have 1 and 3? 1 and 3 is not there. Either 1 and 3 is the answer actually. 2 is incorrect because we don't know if the league is over now. Barca's feminine team has won all the matches of the Champions League this season. Because is the league over? Is the league completed? We don't know. That's the reason it cannot be a conclusion. I will go with actually 1 and 2. 1 and 2 is the 1 and 3. 1 and 3. 1 and 3 option is not there. Okay. Next. During 1980s, the consumers were increasingly seeking out protein as a healthful nutrient, and when protein and whey protein, which is derived from milk, was seen as the most desirable kind, especially by athletes. Isolating protein from whey and adding it to clear drinks could make them more appealing to consumers and make the manufacturing companies a lot of money. But the problem was the flavor. Whey protein has a milky taste, and when separated from milk's natural fat and sugar, it has a dry mouthfeel. Now, what can be concluded here? Consumers are becoming more and more interested in protein due to advantages in areas like weight loss and muscle growth. Don't assume, so it is wrong. Instead of consuming whey protein naturally occurring in milk, many choose to drink it separately. So 2 is a valid conclusion. Since whey protein is made from milk, it can be inferred that people just wanted to take the protein and not the additional vitamins or supplements that are also present in milk. Since only whey protein is discussed in the paragraph and not other types of protein supplements, the first one cannot be true. So what can be considered now here? What can be considered? The individuals preferred ingest milk. Ingest milk derived whey protein. The athletes, the individuals preferred to ingest milk derived whey protein. Milk derived whey protein. So I will go with option 2. Option 2 as a conclusion. Athletes favored when whey protein with milk due to its flavor. It is wrong actually. Demand for water that tastes like dry milk is quite low. Quite low. So here D is also discussing about the other types, so it is not correct. Already 2 is correct. Next. See here statement. Here we have statement. Okay. It's the most common element in the world and packs more energy than conventional aviation jet fuel. Once combusted, hydrogen fuel cells transform into clean water. Clean water. So what can be concluded? What can be concluded from here? The consequence of hydrogen fuel cells could be that clean water would be the most common thing in the world. Yes, this is the correct conclusion. Hydrogen is the most common element in the world. Hydrogen can be packed in the form of energy as hydrogen fuel cells. The hydrogen fuel cells as a fuel then transform into clean water. Therefore, the logical deduction is that the introduction of hydrogen fuel cells could transform all hydrogen in the world into clean water, and clean water becomes the most common thing in the world, provided that humans can accommodate all clean water. So I will go with option 1. Option, that is the first one, is correct. So that is here in the option 2. First conclusion is true, which is option 2. Next, question number 28. Here we have statement. When you are dealing with such tiny moving parts, the ratio of surface area to mass is really high. Really high. The dynamics of what? Minuscule particles increase the ratio of their surface area to mass. The tininess of the dynamic particles increase the ratio of their surface area to mass. The minuscule dynamic particles have a high ratio of surface area to mass. So what can be concluded from here? The third one. These particles have a high ratio of surface area to mass. So the existence of the quantity, not the causation of the quantity, is definitely established in the paragraph. When you are dealing with such tiny moving parts, the ratio of surface area to mass is really high. So from this you can conclude these tiny dynamic particles have a high ratio of surface area to mass. So I will go with what? Only 3. Only 3 means option 1. Now 29th question. 29th question. Statement. Intensified heat vulnerability, flood risk and stormwater management costs are all decreased by trees. They reduce the need for construction energy, sequester carbon and filter airborne particulate matter. Cities like Baltimore and Vancouver have strengthened their park and street planting programs. A greater issue, though, exists with private land, which makes up the majority of urban topography. Ingenious incentives must be combined with effective regulation to increase awareness. Now, which can be concluded from this statement? So here, awareness of the plantation benefits is critical for consolidating support for the tree protection. It is correct. Second one, Vancouver and Baltimore recognize the benefits of tree plantation. Both are correct. Both are correct. So, because the passage highlights the reinforcement for the awareness of tree plantation and also states how it is implemented in other places. The challenge mentioned in the passage suggests that the need for consolidated support. The sentence mentioned in the passage, Vancouver and Baltimore have strengthened park street planting. It helps in concluding that these cities have understood the benefits of tree plantation. So we can say both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2 means option 4. Now question number 30. A passage is given, see here, choose the one which most weakens the conclusion. Which most weakens the conclusion in the passage. Please see here. In the previous question, supported. Now question number 30. If you see, choose the one which most weakens the conclusion in the passage. Okay, this is the passage. According to certain research, participants who get digitally enabled personalized recommendations on eating well, exercising and other interventions may increase their intake of vegetables and adopt other healthy behaviors. Conclusions. Digital technologies have helped in changing behaviors and achieving similar outcomes in various fields. A person acts of his or her free will rather than being convinced by some external influences. A mass movement and consensus can be effectively gained by leveraging digital technologies. So I will say this is going to weaken. Second one is going to weaken. See here what is given. According to the passage, what is given? Digital technologies can help in changing people's habits and adopting a healthy life cycle. Now, if you see one, digital technologies have helped in changing behaviors and achieving similar outcomes in various fields. It is supporting the passage. So, but it is asked for which is going to weaken. So, first is not going to weaken, so it is not the answer. What about second one? Second, a person acts of his or her free will rather than being convinced by some external influences. This is going to weaken the whole point, as it assumes that people act of their free will and do not respond to any influence in their life cycle or in their lifestyle. So even digital technologies won't help in changing them. So it is going to weaken. Second one is going to weaken. Now see third one here. A mass movement and consensus can be effectively gained by leveraging digital technologies. Clearly, this third statement supports the contention that leveraging digital technologies can help in changing human behavior and thereby gaining mass movement. So here it is also not going to weaken. So option 2 is going to weaken, because it is assuming that people act of their free will and do not respond to any influence in their lifestyle. So even digital technologies also won't help them in changing them. which is in against to the conclusion of the author. So you can say this is going to weaken. This is going to weaken the conclusion in the passage. So answer is only 2, option 3. Next. Now you have, so first 10 questions based on arguments, second 10 questions are based on assumptions, now based on conclusions done. 30 questions. Now 31 onwards, statement and course of action. In the statement you will have a situation and course of action is your recommendation. Recommendation to improve the situation mentioned in the statement. Now please see here 31. Vitamin D can help treat damaged beta cells in the pancreas that produce, store and release the hormone insulin, paving the way for a new approach to treat diabetes, scientists say. Course of action. Since vitamin D has a lot of advantages, people should try and incorporate vitamin D into their daily diet, which is correct. Diabetes patients should try and intake as much as vitamin D as possible through sun exposure, diet and supplements. Vitamin D injection should be made available so that it can be used as a vaccination dose for everyone. So course of action 2 is not advisable because there needs to be a dose for everything. It is not correct practical to ask diabetic patients to try and intake as much vitamin D as possible because excess of it might also be harmful. So here 2 is not advisable. Course of action 3 also does not follow because we cannot conclude from what is given if vitamin D can be used to provide immunity against one or several diseases, which is what vaccines are used for. So here we cannot recommend this one. We can recommend only one. Since vitamin D has list of advantages, people should try and incorporate vitamin D into their daily diet. It can be recommended. Okay. So answer is only one. Only one means option 1. Next. Now question number 32. What is here? See here. The Karnataka Electricity Regulatory Commission on Monday announced the revision of tariffs, and the revised tariffs will be applicable from the start of next month, that is July 1st. Now course of action. First one. The people of Karnataka should start a petition asking the governments to stop revising tariffs every few months. People should start reducing their consumption of electricity so that the revised tariffs do not affect the overall electricity bills. The government of Karnataka should offer some other subsidy to its people to make up for their revised electricity tariffs. So out of them, which can be a recommended course of action? So see here, starting a petition asking the government to stop revising electricity tariffs is not going to help. Similarly, people just cannot all of a sudden reduce their consumption of electricity simply because the rates are increased. Finally, expecting the government to offer some other subsidy to make up for the revised electricity tariffs is highly impractical. So none of them is recommendable course of action. Then, the busy roads in the city are crowded with vendors selling cheap toys and bags. FIR should be filed against them and the police should immediately drive them away. Is one recommendable or not? It is not a very big issue for which FIR should be filed. So, I don't think one is a recommendable. One is not recommendable. Because FIR for what? Selling cheap toys and bags in a crowded road is not a big crime. To put a FIR. So here first is not recommendable. What about second? Because it is harsh. Second one, these vendors should be provided some space where they can place their stalls and their bread and butter without obstructing the busty roads. So 2 is recommendable. So only 2. Only 2. Now 34th question. Few serious mistakes were found in the food section of a restaurant. Course of action. A team of experienced chefs should be assigned the task to check the food section. A show cause notice should be issued to all the employees who are responsible for these mistakes. I will go with only 2. Okay. Next, 35. Am I correct or not here? Yes. First one is not recommendable. The sign of a truly liberalized, predictable and business-friendly economy is that the budget day shouldn't matter as much. No one day of the year should impact the economy or lives of 1.4 billion people. Tax rate should remain stable and fiscal expenditures predictable. Broad capital expenditure, privatization and welfare programs should run as usual. Budgets need not have mid-drop movements, grand announcements, or a Santa's bag of gifts. Course of action. The budget day should be termed as a reform announcement day, where the government announces its strategies. The budget day should be completely abolished, while economic reforms and indicators should be announced by the government all year round. The major contention of the passage lies with the fact that the budget day should not be treated as a special day for the government announcements and rather should be an ongoing process and continued process based on the needs of economy and major population. So here course of 1 is superfluous in the context and is less relevant. Now if you see course of action 3, what is given? The government should imply tax calculations and clarify its stance over the economy on the budget day. Whereas course of action 3 suggests that tax calculations are complex, but as the passage it is not mentioned that tax calculations are complex, but rather it is suggested that they should remain stable. They have to remain stable. For achieving such stability, it is important that economic reform should be an ongoing process. So here 2 is recommendable as per the passage. Only 2. Only 2 means option 1. Next one. Now course of action is given followed by situations. So this course of action is for which situation? With intellectual property barriers removed, biotech companies and generic producers could mass produce life-saving COVID-19 therapies and vaccines in India and other countries such as South Africa, Brazil and Bangladesh. Situation 1. What is said here? Companies making drug discoveries aggressively protect their patients through intellectual property rights. Wealthy nations stockpile and pre-book the much needed vaccines in a health crisis, creating a shortage in a global supply chains. India supplies affordable quality generics globally and could play an important role as it did 2 decades back during the HIV or AIDS epidemic. Which of the following situations above situations has led to the course of action to be followed? All 1 to 3. All 1 to 3. All 1 to 3 leads to course of action. Course of action. So I will go with all 1 to 3. Next, 37. Statement is given. You have to answer which course of action can be recommendable. 37. Vaccine nationalism is one in which, in order to immunize their populations, economically developed nations hold vaccines much beyond their needs at the expense of less developed parts of the world who remain unprotected because of vaccine shortage, giving the virus the opportunity to mutate and spread even faster. Course of action. Vaccine should be declared as contrasted substances, thereby assuring their desirability and their universal circulation via supply chains. World Health Organization should urge the developing nations to supply extra vaccines to less developed nations in order to curb the virus mutation in those countries which is a threat to their population also. So this is recommendable. United Nations should request developed nations that no one is safe until everyone is safe, and therefore they must share their ample supplies of vaccine. So here both 2 and 3 are advisable course of action. So here both 2 and 3. Next, now we have one more statement here. In almost all democracies, voting takes place on a single day. India itself used to have most elections on a single day. The booth capturing became such a menace in the 1980s that Election Commission in the 1990s began staggering polling dates and moving police and paramilitary forces from one region to another to ensure peaceful, fair voting. This time, there was a strong case for scheduling poll dates close to the deadline by which time health emergency, the Omicron wave, new COVID variant, should have faded. Instead, the Election Commission is persisting in 7 phases of voting spread over a month, as in the state polls 5 years ago. Course of action. Which course of action is recommendable? Which course of action is recommendable? COVID precautions and protocols should be followed at the poll booths. It is recommendable. And full-fledged physical campaigning and rallying should be discouraged, and instead only digital campaigning should be allowed. It is encourageable, recommended. Only vaccinated citizens should be allowed to vote in the polls. It is against their right, so it is not recommendable. So only 1 and 2. The last question for today's session, about 98%, about 98 million Indians, could have diabetes by 2030. These projections come from the International Diabetes Federation and Global Burden of Disease Project. These future rates are based on current figures, historical trends in other countries that have experienced similar risk factors, and the changes in risk, including alterations in sugary diets and physical activity. Also, there are changes in so-called competing factors with people growing older as other diseases reduce. The rate of the developing diabetes will also rise. So for this, what course of action can be recommendable? We need to understand how to control chronic lifestyle related diseases such as obesity, irrelevant. We need to negotiate the need for medicines and availability of healthier foods, healthier diets and lifestyles. We need to move away from the traditional foods to nutrient poor sugary diets and reduce physical activity. Reduce physical activity. So here, what is the answer here? You have to assume, decide which course of action logically follows. Here I will go with option 3. Option 3. Poor sugary diets. Okay, we need to move away from traditional foods to nutrient poor sugary diets and reduce physical activity. Physical activity. So here option 3 is recommendable because the problem of obesity is more or less due to sugary diets and reduced physical activities as inferred from the problem statement. Both courses have 1 and 2 solutions pertaining to change in lifestyles which reduces obesity and switching to healthy diets with the help of medicines which can remove such problems in the coming future. So they are just an obvious actions and therefore justified to be correct answers. Course of action 3 is contradictory. Course of action is 3 is contradictory. Please see here, you have to assume what is given here. So what is the answer here? What is the answer? 39. 39th one. Course of action 3 is contradictory because it will result into adverse numbers of obesity and thereby can be rejected as the answer. So what is asked here? Is it going against or going in support? In the question below, course of action 1, 2, 3, you have to assume everything is true and based on the information given in the statement, decide which of the suggested course of action logically follows. Logically follows means you will go with 1 and 2 now. We need to understand how to control chronic lifestyle related diseases of obesity. We need to negotiate the need for medicines and availability of healthier foods, healthier diets and lifestyles. We need to move away from traditional foods to nutrient poor sugary diets and reduce physical activity. If you see here, course of action 3 is contradictory because it would result into adverse number of obesity and thereby can be rejected as the answer. It can be rejected. It can be rejected. It is asked for which follows. Which follows. So both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2 are follows. Both 1 and 2 follows. Okay. Both 1 and 2 follows. It is contradictory actually. Okay. So I will suggest both 1 and 2. Both 1 and 2 here. This is what some critical reasoning areas. Okay. That you will be normally tested based on conclusions, assumptions, course of actions and arguments. We have worked today on statement based. Okay. But in your examination, remember, you will have a passage based. Though here you have small passages, in your examination you will have a around 4-5 sentences passage or 3-4 sentences passage, and based on that they will be framing questions in conclusions, assumptions, arguments and course of action. Okay. So in our next session we will discuss those passage based critical reasoning. Okay. We also have some other topics in critical reasoning along with assumptions, conclusions, course of action and arguments. We also do have other areas. Those other areas also I will introduce in our next sheet and we will discuss those questions in our further upcoming class. Okay. Thank you so much.